National has put forward a members' bill to ban social media for under-16s. It follows Australia's world-leading legislation that puts the onus on social media companies to prevent children from accessing their platforms. Earlier, I spoke to South Australian Premier Peter Malinauskas, the architect behind the new law there, who said in hindsight there's just one thing he'd do differently. But I began by asking him about the response to the bill in Australia.
Well, there, of course, has been a degree of contention because there are a lot of young people who are, frankly, addicted to these services and they're a bit reluctant about the prospect of giving them up. But by and large, the overall majority of people in Australia, particularly parents, see this as being an absolutely necessary, if not an urgent measure that is required for the mental health of young people.
So what advice do you have for Kiwi politicians who have concerns about a ban because they think perhaps it's simply unworkable?
We have always sought to implement measures to prevent young people being done harm. And social media addiction is doing young people harm. Now, let's take, for instance, underage drinking or smoking. Governments intervene. We say it's not allowed. We seek to regulate it. Do young people still drink underage? Of course they do. Do young people smoke? Yes, we know that. But they also do it a lot less as a result of regulation and laws that are then able to be enforced or at least set as a standard by parents who are the best example to their children, more and large anyway.
The maximum penalty for a breach in Australia is nearly $50 million, but only $2 million in the Kiwi proposal. Do you think we need to beef it up a bit?
Well, I think it's going to be a number that represents a major deterrence from a social media company deciding to break the law with impunity. Be under no misapprehension, these are some of the most sophisticated and technologically advanced companies that human history has ever known. So it is perfectly within their wit and their capability to make sure that young people under the age of 16 aren't getting access to these platforms.
How much pushback has there been from the social media companies themselves to the ban?
There has been a degree of resistance, without naming any of them specifically, but I think we retain optimism that ultimately they will seek to act lawfully.
Here, National has said that they want New Zealand to be a fast follower, to learn from the rollout of this in other jurisdictions. So is there anything that, in hindsight, you would do differently?
To be honest, would have started this sooner. We definitively know that there are young people around the world who are being deliberately targeted using addiction to get them on these commercial services, and it's doing them harm. Anytime we see addiction, we know there is harm. And the only thing I'd do differently is start this push earlier. But it need having been drawn to my attention, frankly, as a parent myself, I'm glad that we're now getting on with the task. And I think globally there is a movement for change here.
South Australian Premier Peter Malinauskas, thanks for your time today. Tēnā koe.
Thank you.